Is 10:15 okay?
Yeah, I got to go to SAR anyway, so.
Okay.
So I was going to begin with a song, but I have to begin the song so quickly. Yeah.
I'm going to record you both. You're being recorded twice now.
Okay, that's great. So let me just pass this out. If you look at the last piece, first I'm very grateful to Barry for, just go around and introduce. I'm Avi and
Tanya.
Tanya,
Gloria.
Bria.
Liz.
Okay, great. So I have been composing some music this past year, and if you look at number 5, it's from the writings of the Rav. Just a quick nigun. Tu'udato shel adam lafoch goral liyud kiyum mufal umushpa likiyum poel umashpia. I received a call from a very, very dear friend who last week told me that it's going to be very difficult for her to be at the Bayit in Shul for Rosh Hashanah. And what this wonderful person explained to me is that last year her husband was doing well in his struggle against cancer. And she just would not be able to handle the Unetaneh Tokef, mi yuchye u'mi yamut. When I first entered into the rabbinate, I noticed that in Sephardi shuls they don't say Unetaneh Tokef, and I couldn't imagine how could you not say Unetaneh Tokef. And here I was actually suggesting to this wonderful person, why don't you consider going to the Sephardi tefillah where the Unetaneh Tokef is not said. Actually, what we settled on is that I would give her my copy of my son's book, which deals with the right to protest God. And during Unetaneh Tokef, she can either join or she can read about the protest movement that is found in the Midrash. And I wanted to use that as a point of departure to look at this tefillah and to see within this tefillah an approach that I think lends itself to dealing with the inevitable challenges that surface in life. And again, I want to excuse myself because this is a curtailed shiur, although I am coming to the conclusion that the old 50-minute classes in college is probably the best amount of time. After 50 minutes, you can't concentrate. There was a story in this morning's Wall Street Journal about the Supreme Court justices handing notes to each other when listening to very important cases. Like one note was, the Mets are up 2-0. Like, if I were arguing a case in front of the Supreme Court, I'd be giving everything I had, and this is what the justices are doing.
The rest could be Yankees.
So, but I do think 50 minutes is probably the best time, and I'm talking to myself and letting you listen. I rarely am able to do that, but that's a good thing. But there is an approach to B'Rosh Hashanah Yikatevun U'B'Yom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun. I'll hand this out, and I think Rav Jeff sent it to all of you. It's just the Unetaneh Tokef. That this does not refer to Olam Hazeh. Everybody has seen the Rambam. The Rambam says, if you're completely righteous, then on Rosh Hashanah it's written in. Completely wicked, it's written in. If you're Benonim, then Tolim, Vomdim, and then on Yom Kippur it's decided. Really? This young man who died, David, was a tzaddik, mamish. He died at a very, very young age. The woman who spoke to me, her husband. And there is a Tosafot, and there are many Rishonim who understand B'Rosh Hashanah Yikatevun U'V'Yom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun not to refer to this word. If you look at 1b, V'chol ze dekori hocha gabi Rishoyim mito v'gabi tzadikim chayim kloma lechaye ha'olam haba. This is in the Unetaneh Tokef handouts. What I was saying before is because of the limited time, this again will be more frontal, and maybe someday we can open this up. And that's based on a Rabbi Yaakov, which is found in the Gemara Kedushin, Schar Mitzvah B'hai Alma Leka. And a dear, dear friend, Rabbi Yaakov Elman of blessed memory, who actually I'm very indebted to because he edited the first book I wrote on women at prayer, and to have someone of that level edit the book is a great zchut. He's written on this, he wrote on this saying that this position is not an underground position. The idea that there is no reward and punishment in this world is not, it's a more of a mainstream position. After all, if there was schar mitzvah, then what would be problematic? We would lose our humanity because what would be compromised? Our freedom of choice. If I knew that for every $5 in the computer age we'd be able to figure it out, I'm going to get $6 back, I'm going to move very quickly. If I'm going to know that my tongue is going to cleave to my palate, if I'm going to speak Lashon Hara, I assume it's going to prevent me from speaking Lashon Hara. Maybe there are some Mishugoyim out there to whom it doesn't make a difference. And this is a Gemara which is a very central Gemara, and when one looks at this, it changes the whole scenario. I have a custom in shul. First, I don't sit in front of the shul, and I want your future rabbis, I want to suggest that to you. And when people ask me, how come I don't sit in front of the shul, that's where rabbis sit, I always respond and say, that's not where the Jews are. Who wants to sit in front of the shul? I want to sit amongst the people. But I do have it as a custom to move around, especially on the Yom HaNorayim, and I want to be standing next to people whom I know are struggling with their health. Or for me, the highlight of this year's davening was I was all the way in the back of the shul when the final kolot were being sounded, and I had my arms around the two sons of this young man. He has a daughter too, but the two sons who were left orphans. They're in their 20s and in their teens. And I was standing next to another person more my age who got news now that he's struggling with cancer, so much cancer. It's just so painful. And he said, I used to say these words, mi yachya mi yamut. It didn't mean anything to me. Now it really resonates. But looking at it from the perspective of Rabbi Yaakov, it really speaks about, and look, there's a lot been said about how it relates to Olam Hazeh, and that's, I'm trying to control myself and not go into all of that. You read through the Rambam Hilchot Tshuva. Many people read a parak a day because there are 10 prakim for their Seret Yemei Tshuva. That's the first Gemara I wanted to share with you, which explains this Rosh Hashanah Yikatevunu v'Yom Tzom Kippur Yechatenu. Second Gemara, number 2. Amar Rava, said Rava, this is now a Gemara in Moed Katan, Chayai, Banai, Umzonai, Lo B'zchuta Talya Milta Ela B'mazala Talya Milta. And basically this, if you will, is on the back of the previous Gemara. There is no reward and punishment in this world, so what happens to us is dependent upon what?
Mazel.
And it's mazel. My father would always say that mazel is an acronym of makom, zman, and then you have the verb which is I call the covenantal verb, asher bara Elokim, lasot. Every time you see the word lasot, v'shamru derech Hashem, lasot stakal mishpat. At Sinai, naseh v'nishma. Always. Asa is covenantal. In partnership with God, we're going to redeem Am Yisrael. We're going to redeem the world. So Amar Rava. Rava says, Chayai, Banai, Umzonai, Lo B'zchuta Talya Milta, Elo B'mazala Talya Milta. You need good mazel. You need good mazel. And again, this is not an underground Gemara. Schar v'onish b'hai alma leka. There's a whole Torah to this. There are brachot and klalot in the Torah. There are many Rishonim who point out that virtually each of those brachot and klalot, if you do this, you'll be rewarded. If you don't, you'll be punished. It's written in the plural. It's written collectively. And when it's written in the singular, like Kaberet Avicha V'Timecha, Leman Yarichun Yamecha, L'man yarichun yamecha, the Ramban takes a look, says, oh, it's olam haba. It fits into the Gemara. So what is it dependent upon? So if you read Harold Kushner's When Bad Things Happen to Good People, he would say what happens in this world is, what word? Random. It's random. It has nothing to do with God. Now, his book has actually impacted on my life very deeply. Half of it. The one half that I don't agree with is, I don't think, whatever you believe, I love you the same, but I just don't believe things are random. And that's the whole concept of Zichronot after Malchuyot. Malchuyot is the God who creates the colossal world. Zichronot is the same God who is the ruler of everything. Zichronot, he cares about everyone. Kva korat roa edro. God is here, the shepherd. A shepherd, if one sheep is missing, the shepherd is going to feel it very, very differently. So this Gemara is not saying that things happen random. When I get up there, I've got a lot of questions to ask God to understand why this happened and why that happened. There's a reason, but I'm suggesting that the reason is beyond the human realm. But lo b'schut ataya milta ela b'mazala. It's not random. God understands, but we do not understand. When I'm born, if I had a chance to speak to God and ask God, how long will I live? Chayai, there's an answer. Right at birth, it's so designated. Will I be blessed with children? What kind of parnasa? Chayai, banai, mizonai. What kind of children will I have? Will I make it in this world, or am I going to be homeless? It's all mazel. It's like Gabriella, when she was a little girl, our eldest granddaughter. Now she's married. She came home once and she said, I heard the craziest song, and she started to sing. I think it's a Dylan song. I'm not sure. Someone wrote, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, why, oh, why, oh, why, because. That's why. Again, God Mevin. That's a second Gemara. Third Gemara. And these three Gemaras are critical, and I really want to put them out there for you to consider thinking through very carefully. The Tanya, it's a Gemara in Yevamot. I call this Mazel Impact. Impact Mazel Gemara. Our first Gemara said there's no reward and punishment in this world. Otherwise, our humanness would be taken from us. We'd have no reward and punishment. Our second Gemara says, well, why do things happen in this world? It's mazel. God understands. We don't understand. It's incomprehensible. The third Gemara says, it's mazel, but we can impact mazel. It's based on a pasuk in Mishpatim. Et mispa yamecha amalei. It's a pasuk in Shmot. Et mispa yamecha. The length of your days are pre-designated. Amalei means I will fill them out. What does that mean? Et mispa yamecha amalei. Elu shnei dorot. This refers to the amount of years that one lives. You'll look at Rabbi Akiva. I'm going to take a look at it at the Chachamim. It's very similar, but the Chachamim omrim, what does amalei mean? Zacha mosifin lo. If I'm meritorious, years are added. Maybe months are added. The decree that only God understands is not averted. It's not averted. It's not canceled. But I can impact the decree. Lo zacha, if I don't merit it, pochtin lo. Then the years of life are reduced. So what does this mean? It means something like this. When we're born, we are all born with a certain mazel. We are all born with certain predispositions. Well, let's begin using this word. We are all born with a certain fate. The Hebrew word for fate is gorah. We all have our genetic system. We have our fingerprints. We have no control over that. When I was born with a propensity to, in life, suffer from cardiac disease. How do I know that? Well, you go to a doctor, what are they asking? Oh, did your father, did your mother have cardiac disease? Did your grandparents have cardiac disease? Well, my father had cardiac disease. My grandfather had cardiac disease. They all lived longer than the other. You know why? We're born with a certain mazel, but we can impact that mazel. I'm talking to myself and letting you listen. Eat the right foods. Exercise a little bit, Avi. A little bit. If I want to know whether I'm going to live a mentally balanced life, you can check out DNA, check out chemical balance. There's real truth to that. But whatever that setup may be, if I live a life and I'm loved and a life of balance, of spiritual balance, of family balance, it can make a difference. Will I have a child who will have a learning disability? There are people born with learning disabilities. If you're on the spectrum, if you have Downs, one of our children has the most beautiful, beautiful child. Was late in the ability to speak. That's it. It had nothing to do with the choice of the child or the parents. The love, I must say, that my daughter put into our granddaughter, her daughter, like, it's unbelievable. She's going to be bat mitzvah. That's going to be the mazel dikashav, the mazel dikashav. Et mispa yomecha amalei zacha mosifin lo zacha pochti lo. And this is said magnificently by my Rebbe, the Rav, in what I consider to be, for me in life. He's written many things that has touched me deeply. This, for me, has impacted my life, and that's why I'm especially excited to share it with you, because I hope you'll find it of meaning, and I hope this will help you in your rabbinate. So the Rav always spoke in dialectic. He never spoke in absolutes. He was the master of, if there's a contradiction in the Rambam, there are two halachas, and no absolute, and dialectic, you know, the whole Torah of dialectic means it's like you're pulling at opposite ends of a very tight rope. Where does the creativity come from dialectic? It comes from the tension in the rope, if you're pulling, the tension. He was a person of tension. That's why I argue the Haredi world actually, in certain ways, is much more attractive. You have a question, they'll give you the answer. It's a world of absolutism. Modern orthodoxy, or whatever you want to call it, open orthodoxy, loving orthodoxy, it's complicated. It's complicated. Maybe, if, but, it's complicated. So the Rav looks at the human personality. This is perfect Rav, and he says, he's speaking now in philosophical terms, he says, we are each first person individual. We're each an I. But, this is perfect, the Rav says, we are each an I, but we have two I's. We have two I's, capital I, capital letter I, and the two I's make up the one I. So he says, there is, first of all, each of us have what he calls the eye of fate. We are all born with a certain Gorah. These are the Gemaras we've been studying. And the eye of fate asks a speculative metaphysical question with regard to evil. So, my daughter can ask over and over, why does that beautiful child, why was she born with this disability? Why was she fated with this? The Rav writes, and he knew something about philosophy, let me tell you. It's a speculative metaphysical question regarding evil, and this question is not susceptible to solution and has no answer. You know why? Because lo bischuta talya milta elo bimazala. Nothing to do with schar va'onish. I wouldn't say this to a person who's suffering straight out, but in my counseling, I would want to get to that point where that person comes to this realization that I've not been stricken because of something that I did wrong. Now, is that the only position within the Jewish spectrum? No. But it is not an underground position. It is a major, major position, and frankly, it's a position that I'm most comfortable with. We're not here to judge others why whatever happens to them happens to them. I was once at a rabbinic conference where a rabbi, my senior, this goes back years, whom means a lot to me, got up and he said, after I gave a little session, he said, Avi is so non-judgmental that for him there's no such thing as a tzaddik or a rasha. And I said, I'm sure there is such a thing as a tzaddik and a rasha. I'll let God decide who's a tzaddik and a rasha. I'm not going to decide who's a tzaddik and a rasha. So maybe the orthodoxy it's non-judgmental. Orthodox, I got a lot of adjectives. Non-judgmental, inclusive, the whole kit and caboodle.
It's complicated, right?
The eye of fate is you know when he wrote this? In 1956. 10 years after the Shoah, 11 years. All the rabbis were offering reasons why there was a Shoah.
Yeah.
Oh, because of this sin, because
yeah.
of, you know what the Rav says? You know why? I don't know why. And he writes, and you must pick up that work, towards the end he talks about the collective fate of Am Yisrael. In the beginning he talks about the individual fate of individuals, but now turn the page and now he says, oh, that's only half of the human personality is the eye of fate. Then he says in the second dimension of man's existence, everyone spoke about man, even Heschel, who was a great feminist, wrote Man in Search of God. That was the terminology they used, it was generic. This is destiny. The question of suffering takes on new forms. What is the existence of destiny? What is that? First of all, the Hebrew word for destiny is, anyone? Yi'ud. Yi'ud. Goral is fate. What is an existence of destiny? This is an active existence in which a human confronts the environment into which he or she was cast with an understanding of his uniqueness, value, freedom, and capacity without compromising his integrity and independence in his struggle with the outside. Fancy language, you must read this and reread this. Put this up on your refrigerator. Read it over and over. The slogan of the Eye of Destiny is the following: against your will, you're born. I read somewhere that some kid is suing his parents for having brought him into the world. How dare you bring me into this world? I'm suffering. I had no choice. Why'd you do that? Suing his parents. I don't know if that was a joke or if it was serious. But against your will, you're born. That was our fate. Why are we born? We are the product of a moment of intimacy. An instant. Had it been another instant, we wouldn't be who we are. We'd be another gender. We wouldn't be who we are. Against your will you are born. Against your will you die. A person could want to live forever, but no one's going to live forever. But then he writes, but with your free will you will live. A human being is born as an object, dies as an object, but it is within his capacity to live as a subject, as a creator who impresses on his life his individual imprimatur and who lives autonomously. I love the next sentence. According to Judaism, the human mission in this world is to turn fate into destiny. That's the bottom. To dato shel adam lafoch goral liyud. An existence that is passive and influenced to an existence that is active and influential. An existence of compulsion, perplexity, and speechlessness to an existence full of will and initiative. If we had time, I'd play a game of association. Fate and destiny. Give me two words that parallel, like the old SATs. Fate, destiny. What would you say? So he says it. Fate is, in his words, fate, what word comes to mind right away? Fate is passive. Destiny is active. Anybody else? Two words, anybody? From Haifa, from Tel Aviv, fate and destiny. Any other parallel words?
Chance.
I'm sorry?
Chance?
Chance.
Chance. Fate is chance.
Random.
And destiny?
It was a Jewish music group when in the 1980s, remember?
I like that. I like chance. Fate is chance in a certain sense. Yeah. We just need a word for for destiny opposite the
Destiny's
chance.
Journeys.
I'm sorry?
I just realized what Atara said, that there's a Jewish music group from the 80s.
It was called
I
chance?
think it was called Destiny.
Destiny.
Yeah.
It was called destiny.
It's
Yeah.
English music, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's chance. Here we go. I got it, Atara. Fate,
I would suggest.
fate
I
is
would
chance
suggest-
and destiny is
Choice.
music group. Good.
I
Choice.
would suggest
Chance
that-
and choice. I like that. Chance and choice.
Olivia, what?
Livia, what were you saying?
No, I was saying that purposeful, yes, but purposefulness.
Yeah.
Being purposefully as opposed of being so imposed some kind of a circumstantial, imposed circumstance or purposeful planning.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
uh,
Faith.
purposeful-
Now let's take that last. According to Judaism, man's mission in his world, woman's mission is to turn fate into destiny. Look at the Hebrew. Tu datosha adam lafoch. You gotta. I put this to music, and I actually was shaking when I put it to music, because I once asked when we put in the mechitz in the shul, I didn't do it. Everything I wanted the Rav's imprimatur. I said to him, Rebbe, would you ever be a shliach tzibur here? He said, you don't want me to be a shliach tzibur. I just can't sing. And I always wondered how this Briscoe would have reacted. I put this to music as I tried to. It's not great music. Kiyum muf'al mushpa. What does kiyum mean? An existence. The Hebrew is magnificent. What does muf'al? Muf'al means, muf'al is passive. Umushpa, and influenced. That's another. Fate is your influence. Likiyum, to an existence, what is poel?
Actor.
That is active. A play on the word mufal. Umashpia, and influential. I once heard it was. Why am I blocking? You help me with this. In the early 90s, there was a young soldier who took a hitchhike, and it turned out to be Nachshon Waxman.
Yes.
Actually, after he was kidnapped, he jumped into a car that he thought was being driven by Haredim, and they turned out to be Arab terrorists. There is a rule in the Israeli army, it is a cardinal sin to take a hitchhike. I know because our second grandson in the Air Force, Eitan, he was up near his base in Haifa, somebody asked him for directions, and he gave him the directions, and he says, oh, it's too confusing, could you jump into the car and help me? And he's a good kid, he jumped into the car, and he said, I hate to tell you, but we're the military police, and you're going to jail. Thank God he didn't go to jail. You cannot get into a car. He was Masa Shahya. Thank God he didn't have to go. And last summer he worked for Danny Danone at the United Nations. And Eitan, I know you're changing the world. If you ever hear this, I'm so proud of you. So he was kidnapped, and in the end, Yitzhak Rabin asked a commando unit, an elite commando unit. I always promise myself I'll mention the name of the head of the commando unit, Nir Poraz, P-O-R-A-Z, who was killed in the attempt to save Nachshon, and Nachshon was killed. I heard Nachshon's mother, with whom, thank God, I've developed a very close relationship, speak at a YU graduation. You know what goes on at graduations when a guest speaker speaks, especially, I don't want to say anything bad, at YU. Nobody's listening. When she spoke, you could hear a pin drop. And she was speaking about how she dealt with the loss of her son. And there was one sentence that she used that just stuck in my head. She paraphrased the Rav, and she said, the only way I was able to continue is I had to ask myself, will I be a victim of my fate, or will I initiate a new destiny? It's a beautiful formulation. Will I be a victim of my fate, or will I initiate a new destiny? So Harold Kushner writes a book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Now, why doesn't he call it why? What's the difference between why bad things happen to good people and when bad things happen to good people? What's the difference?
Inevitability.
Why? What kind of question is why? Why is a
Challenge.
it's a philosophical question. As Rabbi Soloveitchik says, he says there is no answer why. And why is past driven. Why did something happen in the past? Once it's happened, I have no control over it. When is not a philosophical question, but rather it is a question that deals with action. When something happens, and it's not the past, it's the future, when it happens, how should I conduct myself going forward? I'd like to say it even, if I may, more sharply. I was once giving a rabbinic seminar near Boston, and I quoted Harold Kushner, and I said, I'm indebted to him, but I agree with only half. And I said, I always love to meet him. At the end of the seminar, so help me, somebody walks up to me and says, Avi, I'm Harold Kushner. So it was a great, great moment.
Oh, that's amusing.
More deeply, when something bad happens, look, we're all going to be rabbis. If a person asks why, you have to listen. I'm just saying, as a matter of approach, I think it's healthier to first not ask why, but to ask what now. Given the situation, what now? How actively am I to proceed forward? Or I want to say it more deeply, I want to say it theologically. When something happens that is challenging, the question is not only what we will do now in response. I want to ask a deeper question. I want to ask, what will God do? Do you see what's happening? Most people ask God, why did you do this? I just want to ask a different question. Now that it's happened, God, what will you do for me from this point forward? Not why did you do this, God, in the past, but given the situation, what will you do, God, for me moving forward? And what I have found is the following. When people are faced with challenges, we should be spared the challenges, but there is no life without challenge. When people are faced with challenge, people have the capacity to transcend. By that I mean, what does the poet say? To reach beyond our grasp. We have the capacity, when challenged, to do things we never ever thought we could do. Now here's a theological belief, and not everybody feels this way. Whatever you believe, I love you. But for me, the capacity for human beings to do the unbelievable when faced with challenges, I think it's not only our strength. I think that that's a gift from God. That capacity is not only a gift from God above, but it's the power of God in each of us. We all have a piece of limitlessness within us to achieve and to do the unbelievable. In our shul, there's a wonderful woman, Shira Gordon. She has 2 children. One of them, Jonathan, has been severely with disadvantages from the beginning of his life. It's 18 years later. She was still wheeling Jonathan into synagogue in a larger stroller. Talking to him, knowing who knows what Jonathan is comprehending. And I'm very close to Shira, so one time I sat with her. I said, Shira, if somebody would have said to you 20 years ago that this is your fate, a child will be born with this disability, and after 20 years, you're still going to have to carry him the way you carry a 6-month-old infant, what would you have said? She said to me, I would have told you I can't do it. I can't do it. But she's done it. And I don't think one is born with that kind of devotion, that kind of courage, that kind of love, unless when challenged, God gives us the capacity. What was the words we used? To reach beyond our grasp. That's the poet's words. For ordinary people to do the extraordinary things. I sometimes think that there has never ever been greatness in the world without a challenge. Arguably, who's the greatest president ever in the United States? Abe Lincoln. He wasn't great in a vacuum. He was faced with the challenge of slavery. Herzl was not great in a void. Herzl faced the challenge of a Jewish people that was stateless. King faced the challenge that he faced, the inequality of our black brothers and sisters. Sharansky was denied freedom in the Soviet Union. Given the challenge, they did stuff that was unbelievable. Stuff that they probably never, ever thought that they can do. And so my philosophy in life is that when faced with a challenge, I'm very careful with the way I use my energy. We have just so much energy. And rather than use my energy on why it happened, and the why is the past, as we've said, and there are no real clear answers philosophically on why something challenging occurs, if I'm going to use all my energy wanting to know why I have had cardiac disease, I've had 2 heart attacks at demonstrations. Why? At 42, I should have a heart attack? What? Protesting for Soviet Jewry? Or the infant child that you've often heard me speak about that really shaped my life, a 4th child that we were born with. If I'm going to spend all my time, as I did for a long time. When we had this child, I couldn't put on tefillin for 6 months. I was a rabbi in a shul in Muncie. I wasn't putting on tefillin. I was really angry, for good reason. And then I got to the point, I said, I'm using my energy for what reason? I have no energy left. So rather than use my energy on the why, I'd rather use my energy on more proactively, positively, what now? And I want to argue that if I could sense God's presence in moving forward, in helping me turn fate into destiny, then sequentially, that's the better time to ask why. I'm in a better place in my relationship to God to then go backwards and ask, well, why did you do this in the first place? A lot of answers about the way we feel about another has to do with the place we are in relationship with the other. If I see the other God coming through and helping me go forward, I may be in a better spot, maybe, to struggle and do somersaults with God as to why God did this in the first place. This has been a staple that I've tried to reach for in life, often coming up short, often. Because we can't control our feelings, and it's very understandable when feeling something for someone to ask why and to exert energy uselessly. It's very, very common. And it's been a staple in my rabbinate. I have a custom, and I want to encourage you, every Erev Shabbat, I call all the people whom I know are stricken with serious diseases. And there are too many. And in speaking with them, I try to, in the sweetest way, trying to draw it from people to move from turning fate into destiny. Can't change the fate, but maybe we can impact the fate. Turn it into a destiny. And I want to go so far as to say that I don't think there's any situation that we cannot impact upon. I remember saying this somewhere in the country, and someone said to me, "What, are you kidding me? Somebody's on a deathbed. That's the fate. The person is dying from a terrible disease. How do you impact that person's fate? That person may be intubated, unable to help himself or herself." I remember Alan Wasserman, the only living grandson of Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, was in our shul. He died in his early 30s from cancer. He was taken to Seattle to a bone marrow transplant hospital. And I flew out there, and I learned something at the Fred Hutchinson Center that has affected me throughout my rabbiting. I learned that there are two ways, and of course, as rabbis, we deal with dying. Dying is part of life. But I learned that there are two ways to die. There's lonely dying, and there's loving dying. And that is within our capacity. Even if Alan didn't have the koach to turn the dying into loving, turning fate into destiny could become the responsibility of those around the individual who is completely incapacitated. Again, I want to repeat this. I don't think there's a situation, lo pashut, where one's fate, one's moment cannot be turned into a new destiny. Which brings me full circle back to the Unetaneh Tokef. Rosh Hashanah yikatevun, uviyom tzom kippur yechatemun. That is not olam hazeh. What is that? That is olam haba. So says the Tosafot. That's the way I want to take it. Tzchar va'onesh b'ha moleka. There's mazel. Look at all of this. Mi yichyeh, mi yamut, mi v'kitzo, mi lo v'kitzo, mi lo v'kitzo. There are two men who were in our shul. One was bar mitzvah in the shul, who left wives pregnant and went off to work on September 11th, 2001, and never came home. What, they did something to be deserving of that? I used to read this. It didn't make any sense to me. It just seems so ancient. Mivaskila? Stoning? It sounded like we're lifting from the Dawud Mitot Bedin. Yeah, Mivaskila, when the stones came down in that building. Mivacherev, by sword. What's Pearl's first name, the Wall Street Journal? Daniel Pearl.
Daniel.
His last word was, I'm a Jew, and Vacherev. But that was his fault. All of this stuff is not what we're deserving of. It's mazel. And then, look at the next line. Utshuva, utfilah, tzedakah. Now we've been saying, whatever my fate, if I exercise right, if I eat the right foods, I can impact the fate. Now, Chazal, they're going to say that there's another way that you can impact fate. You know how you can impact fate? Tshuva, tfilah, tzedakah. Come back another time, we'll give shiurim on tshuva, tfilah, tzedakah. How do they interlace? How do they interface? And then you have the words mavirin et roa hagzera. I have yet to see a proper translation of mavirin et roa hagzera. In the Birnbaum, and I still love the Birnbaum mouth, so they translate that all of this cancels the evil decree. Even this translation averts, this is a little bit better, averts the evil of the decree. It is a little better. If it would mean cancel the evil decree, the word wouldn't be mavirin. What would be the word?
Mevatel.
Mevatel.
Yeah.
And if it would mean it cancels the evil decree, how would I say evil decree, Yael? It would be mivatlin et hagzeira hara'ah. What does mavirin mean? It gets me through it. I get through it. It passes me through it. At roa hagzeira, roa, if you will, is what is that? Gzeira is almost like a noun. It's like a decree. Roa is a, what's the word? I don't know if it's an adjective.
It's a substantive. It's not an adjective. It's a substantive.
Roa is a kind of explains I don't know if it's a modifier. Roa gzera means.
No, it's not. It's a noun. It's not a modifier. It's a substantive. It's not an adjective.
Yeah.
So
Okay. At Roa gzera means.
Of the decree.
At Roa gzera means it removes the harshness of the decree. That's what it means. It removes the sharpness of the decree. Why? Because the Gemara says, 3 Gemaras, remember, Schar va'onesh b'ha'amaleka. Again, if you ever think about, it's not to say that there are not other ways in there are, but this is a solid approach in Jewish philosophy. There's no reward and punishment in this world for us to have freedom of choice. Second, what happens? God understands it's mazala. I can't undo the mazel, but what can I do? Amaleh. That's the third Gemara. It's not, I can't cancel the evil decree, but I can impact the evil decree. And sometimes the impact could take me to levels that are unbelievable levels. Like we said last week, Tkiya, Shvar Chua, Tkiya, what did my Abba say? The Tkiya after the breakage, just make it a little bit longer than the first Tkiya, because sometimes from the challenge you can get to unbelievable levels. I can think of countless examples of this. Kobe Mandel. Can one understand why, when he was a teenager, he was murdered? His murder was so brutal, he could not be identified. He had to be identified with his DNA. He was murdered with his buddy Yosef Lifshin, I think his name. They didn't know who was who. But his father, Seth Mandel, who had been a rabbi of a Hillel here in America, then went on Aliyah, they could never bring him back. Never. But you know what he did? He and his wife, Sherry, they created Camp Kobe. Some of you may have been there. Never brought him back. Created Camp Kobe. That's what life is. Avital Sharansky. I had the great zchut to travel with Avital when Natan was in jail. It's unfortunate that young people today don't even know Sharansky's name. Mamish, he's a hero. So, now he was in prison for 10 years. In the end, he got out. Did it affect their lives? Of course it affected their lives. Had they been together, maybe they have 2 children, beautiful children, Rachel and Chana. Had they been together, who knows how many children they would have had. But the point is, given what he did, she took that fate, his imprisonment, and she turned it into something unbelievable. His first speech was one of the great moments at the Bayit. He came to the shul. That was his first speech. He spent Shabbat with us. Comes to the Bayit. Thousands of people were here. You don't get 500, 600 upstairs. They were outside. They were outdoors. It was Mamish Meshiga. This little, did I have to tell you, sir? This little kid comes up to me. Little Joseph. Now he's an adult with, he's tugging at my jacket. And Mamish, there are hundreds of people there. And he's saying to me, he's whispering, he says, Rabbi, Rav Avi, where's free? I know, what is he bothering me? And he says it over and over, where's free? And suddenly it hit me. I picked this kid up and I hugged him. And I realized this 3-year-old was at so many demonstrations where we were screaming, free Sharansky. He thought Sharansky's first name was free. Gewalt. A Gewalt. The communists said, we're going to win the day, we're going to win the minds of little kids. For this little kid, forget the communism. There's one, the guy's name was free. I always used to say to Avital, when she got out, we've remained very, very close. I said, Avital, did you ever send a letter to the leaders of the Soviet Union? Just stuck them a little bit, tell them I'm free. So I had a great zchut at Rachel's wedding. It was in Ramat Rachel, and it goes back 10 years. So I had the great zchut to do the last bracha, the Am Yisrael Chai, under the chuppah. It was a great moment. I'll just leave you with this. I was looking out and I saw these old Soviet Jewry veterans, and I said to my wife, I said, Toby, just look at Yosef. They look, they're gray and they got punched bellies. Getting older. And Toby said, well, look in the mirror, you know. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So when I get under the chuppah, this is perfect, Avital. She whispers in my ear, Shalachti Hazmana Lilrudenko. She sent an invitation to the wedding to Natan's, whoever incarcerated him. And that's it. Turning fate into destiny. It's really, and that's, Utshuva, utfilah, tzedakah, ma'avirim et roach hagzera. And that's the Hebrew. Akarcha chadam nolad. We have no choice. Va'akarcha chadam met. Avol biratzon chavshi adam chai. Adam nolad, the next Hebrew word I couldn't make out, but obviously it's object. Umeit ka-object. Object.
Obviously.
Aval b'yichalto lichyot ki-subject. So we have now 2 minutes. Anybody, any reflections, any thoughts? I feel that this, it's not just an approach to the Unetaneh Tokef, but I feel in terms of the rabbinate itself, the rabbinate is so much dealing with the challenge that inevitably we face, others face, and I offer this as a mahalach, as a particular approach. I want to underscore again, it's very important to me, that this doesn't mean that we should ever block anyone in any way from asking the why question. The why question is a fair question, understandable question. I'm just saying that sequentially asking what now is a better use of energy and turning the fate into a new destiny. Yeah, the association, you know what fate is? He was incarcerated. What, he deserved to be incarcerated? And I think destiny is, where's free? Where's free? Thoughts, anyone? Atara, any thoughts from Tel Aviv? Yes, please.
So Rav Avi, as you were talking,
Jenny.
I was thinking about actually talk about the Rosh Hashanah and my Dvar Torah. During the last year when I was in doing chaplaincy training, there was a 42-year-old man with young children who had been in for a minor procedure and was hospitalized overnight as a precaution, and during the night he passed away. And he was a successful banker, I think, and he had quit his job. They had a child with autism. He came home to care for his child, and it was very traumatic, obviously, when he passed away. When his mother got to the hospital, when they called his wife, they called his parents, and his mother got there first and walked into the room and stood over her son, who was in the prime of his life and had a young family and a happy marriage and everything else, and she stood over him, and she was quiet for a minute, and she turned and she said, God, I don't understand, but I accept that this is your will. And then she turned and walked out of the room to find out what needed to be done for, how to go forward. And being a sort of an aid to that type of a moment and watching that type of faith, it's not something she could have planned for. Nobody knows how you're going to react in that type of situation. But it was very powerful to be a witness in that moment. And one of the things that I've come to appreciate in doing that work is that even without having that type of emunah, I've seen it enough times when people have it that it's such a holy moment, and I appreciate it so much,
Right.
even though I don't have that type of emunah.
First of all, I appreciate that, Jennifer, and that is a holy moment. But if I walk into a room and at that moment one screams out, damn you, God, where are you, God? That's also a holy moment. It's a very holy moment, and I think a Rav then just allows, as I'm sure you would agree, allows that expression. Eliezer Berkovitz is an introduction to faith after the Holocaust. He says, anyone who was victimized in the Shoah is holy. And then he writes something like, those who went to their death, Jennifer, with Shema on their lips, they died as holy believers. And those who went to their death saying, damn you, God, where are you, God? There is no God. They died no less holy. They died as holy disbelievers. So in that circumstance, there's kedusha no matter. And as you know, we have to be the listeners. But certainly what you described is that's an expression of kedusha. Did you want to say something? Yes, please.
Sure. I My grandmother's a Holocaust survivor. She was.
And then we're going to have to stop.
Yeah,
if you
and she
come on.
wrote a poem right after the show when she was 16, and I think it's appropriate.
Please, so we'll
To
going to
share.
stop. Please.
Yeah.
Speak up so it can
Okay.
be heard.
Great. The shadows at night. The shadows in the dark question me. Are you defeated? I answer, oh no, not me. Then you must be mad, child. Don't you see the long line, children, grown-ups, in the endless night? The fire around them engulfs their faces, but they still whisper prayers. And you who got life instead, what will you do with the memories of that long night? Will you listen to casual chatter, or will you scream? That does not matter. The people in the line, their eyes and faces, they pray for help. They pray for forgiveness of sins they never committed. They hoped for an answer. They hoped for help. And their eyes pierced through the iron gates. Their hands reached to heaven with request. Where are our brothers, the strong, free men? But the silence was choking and bold, and the rain brought the unexpected cold. The flames killed the soul of all men. Silence was the answer of the free men. The shadows at night talk to me. Why are you not mad? They question me.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to thank you so much. It's a beautiful way to bring this to a close. And I want to wish you all a Shana Tova. It should be a blessed year of health, and Atara, things should be beautiful in Tel Aviv, and for the whole family, for Jeremy and Jennifer and Yael in Philadelphia, and things should be good in Haifa, Michal, and Michal's Arkovitz is on the phone. It should be a good year for all of Am Yisrael and all of Bet Yisrael and Kol Yoshvei Tevel B'ezrat Hashem. Thank you. It's always a joy to share Torah with you.